Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about a very beautiful foliage plant called as Stromanthe Magic Star, also called as Caletheia Magic Star. Now this plant belongs to the genus of Maranthaceae. So we have prayer plant, we have Maranthas, we have Caletheas. They all belong to the genus of Maranthaceae. Now guys, I would say this is not a very beginner friendly plant, especially for people who are from a dry environment. And if you're planning to grow your plants outdoor, then it's not going to work out really well. Unlike our other foliage plants like philodendrons, pothos, scindapsus, monsteras, these tend to do quite well with very low maintenance as well. Whereas the caletheas or any plant from the genus of Maranthaceae, they are very picky about their environment and you need to give a little bit of care. You cannot let them be in neglect, otherwise the plants will not do quite well. There are a lot of things that you need to keep in mind before you buy this plant. So if you have seen this plant on Instagram or on Facebook and you're planning to buy this plant, then you have to ensure that you give this following care in order for it to thrive. So let's talk about the background of this plant. Now this plant belongs or is native to the Brazilian rainforest. So you can imagine if it belongs to a rainforest, it definitely likes a lot of humidity. So that is where a lot of people are going to have issues, especially if you are from a very dry and hot environment, or if you are from a very dry and cold environment, then growing this plant outdoor is going to have a lot of issues. But you can definitely grow it indoors with the help of a humidifier, because of course you cannot use a humidifier outdoor. It has to be either in an enclosed space or indoor or in a glass terrarium, or if you have a kind of a shelf of a glass shelf, you can keep a humidifier in that and grow this plant. But you can definitely not compromise on humidity because it prefers a high amount of humidity. So now let's talk a little bit about the soil mix. Now guys, these basically in their natural environment, they tend to grow on the forest floor. So you need to have a soil mix that is going to be loose, porous, which is going to be airy and well draining. Well draining is a key factor over here, because if you are going to grow this plant in a drainless spot, then it's going to have a lot of issues. So ensure that you have a well draining soil. I use the same soil mix that I tend to make for all of my plants. I'll put the link in the description below. You can check it out. The soil basically contains coco peat, sand, garden soil, and a little bit of perlite to make it airy. And the soil is well draining. Now, watering is the most important part because this plant does love a little bit of moisture in the soil, because as we said, it tends to grow in rainforest, as we all know what rainforest is. So you need to maintain a slight amount of moisture in the soil, but not soggy wet soil. If you're going to keep the soil soggy wet, then there is going to be root rot. So ensure that you have a well draining soil. Whenever you tend to see that the upper layer of soil around 2 inches is dry, go ahead and water it. Probably during summers, you'll have to water it more frequently because the soil tends to dry much faster, and this plant is in its growing period during the summers. So you'll have to water it a little bit more frequently compared to the winters. So that brings us to the next point, is fertilizers. Now please do not add fertilizers during the winters because the plant tends to go dormant. The moment the temperatures start to drop, the plant tends to go dormant. So do not add any fertilizers and cut down on your watering. This plant tends to do quite well during the warmer months, which is during the summer. So during that period of time, you can add some liquid based fertilizers. Probably once a month is more than enough and the plant will thrive. And as I said, ensure that you moisten the soil before adding any kind of fertilizers. Always go for a liquid based fertilizer, because liquid fertilizer tends to get absorbed by the plant much faster compared to the solid fertilizer. Now talking about the light, this is the most important part. Now guys, you need to understand that the undertone of these leaves, as you can see, they are darker in color, and now they tend to grow on the forest floor, wherein they are under the canopy of large trees. So due to which they are not able to get a lot of light, and we need to kind of replicate the same environment. Now because they have these darker leaves, the light tends to fall on them and they tend to absorb that light. They do not waste any light. Our other plants, they have, the transparent leaves, the light falls through it and passes through it. But over here, these tend to capture because they have very limited light. So we have to ensure that we do not expose them to direct sunlight. Otherwise, the leaves will start to curl. The tips will start to turn brown. So ensure that you do not give direct sunlight. Only give indirect bright light, or you can give dappled sunlight as well. If you're going to give it direct sunlight, the leaves will start to fold. It will start looking very droopy. So do not give direct sunlight. There could also be burns on the leaves. Now, talking about what type of water you can give it, do not give the direct tap water, because direct tap water contains chlorine. It contains a lot of minerals, and these plants do not like a lot of minerals. And if there is excess minerals in the soil, then again, the tips of the plant will start to get burnt. So ensure that you do not give direct tap water. You can give RO water, you can give drinking water as well. Or what you can do is, the best thing what I prefer to do is, store water 24 hours. You can take tap water and store it in a container or in a bucket before giving it out to the plant. It's absolutely fine. There will be no issues then, but ensure that you do not give direct tap water. Otherwise, it is going to damage the plant. Now, talking about pest issues, ideally this plant does get affected with spider mites. So always turn the leaves and check if there are any spider mites. You can use any organic solution that you have been using, but ensure that you do at least once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. You can just check the leaves, just do a visual inspection, because these usually get affected with spider mites. Another common issue with these plants, with calatheas, is that because they like a lot of humidity, because they like slight moisture in the soil, a lot of times they get affected with root rot. So ensure that you check the soil properly before watering it. Maintain a very slight moisture. When you tend to see the upper layer of soil 2 inches is dry, then go ahead and water. Do not keep it in a container without a drain hole. Otherwise, there is a high chance that the roots will get rotted. Now, talking about propagation, it's very easy to propagate calatheas. They tend to put out a lot of rhizomes, so you can either separate the rhizome with the roots, or what you can do is you can do a root division. For that, you'll have to take out the entire plant from the pot and then do a root division. So it's very simple to do a propagation. But again, guys, let the plant grow very bushy. Only then try to, separate the rhizomes, or try to separate the roots only then, once it's very bushy. Now, talking about the plant container, you can go with any 5-inch pot or a 8-inch pot, and it takes a lot of time for them to get root bound. So they are usually better to be repotted once in 2 years or once in 2.5 years. It takes a very long time for them to get root bound. So even if they get root bound, you do not need to be worried. The moment you feel like the roots are coming out from the drain hole, only then go ahead and repot them. Now, as we have spoken about this is a plant that tends to grow in a warmer conditions. They prefer summer, or they prefer slightly warmer conditions in order to grow. So if you are from a place wherein the temperatures drop below 18 degrees Celsius, then please do not keep this plant out the moment you feel that the winters are coming in. Or if you're a person who tends to experience snowfall, then please do not keep this plant out. They won't survive. So ensure that you get them indoor, and you can probably grow them near a windowsill wherein they get a good amount of indirect but bright light. Now, talking about, is this plant toxic? This plant is not toxic. It's not toxic to humans as well as to pets. So you can easily keep them around the house. So guys, I hope that this video on Stromanthe Magic Star was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.